Well, let's talk about New York City. And you got somebody like Jane County, which I don't think anywhere else would have been given the opportunity to let it all out there and be herself. New York City, that's the place. And leads off the chapter on East Coast artists. You start with Jane County. She built her empire as a performer in the New York City punk scene in the 70s and was part of Andy Warhol's factory, widely considered the first transgender woman to front a punk band, but rarely acknowledged as one of the first people to ever front a punk band. And she's been vocal about being overlooked and quoted from a 2003 interview, mentions David Bowie. That was interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Jane like moved to New York for that reason, like she was doing like drag stuff in her hometown, like around Atlanta, and was like, there were like places where she was doing drag, but it wasn't, as acceptable to do as it was in New York. And so when she moved to New York, it was like she just got to like find like all the weirdos and, just, talks about I read her book, Man Enough to Be a Woman, which is where I got a lot of information about her. And, she just talks about how like when she moved to New York, she was just like, wow, there's weirdos everywhere. But yeah, in terms of the David Bowie thing, the quote that I have in the book is she says, "You ask David Bowie about me, and he pretends like he doesn't even know me now. Bowie wouldn't have existed if it hadn't been for me and Cherry Vanilla and them." And
Mhm.
so, she's talked a lot about how like David Bowie, like, was kind of like visually like this straightish, guy until he started kind of hanging around. He met the cast of Pork, Andy Warhol's Pork. And then he just started kind of getting, more into like glam and like drag-ish stuff. I guess he wasn't really doing drag, but he was doing drag-ish, kind of like more queer stuff. And she's also said that like David Bowie promised to record demos for her, and then that never happened. But like some of those ideas like popped up on some of his recordings.
So he knew her
Um,
well then.
yeah, like yeah,
Yeah, Bowie knew.
they
Yeah,
like
Jane.
decided to work together at one point.
Wow. Okay.
So
Yeah. So she had a right to get a little pissed off. Overlooked. Why do you think he did? He ever mention her in interviews?
I
Do you
don't
know?
know. I'm not sure. I think that according to her, he doesn't, and he hasn't said anything, but I haven't like done all the research to see whether or not
Right.
he's ever acknowledged that influence. But according to her, he hasn't acknowledged, he never
Hmm.
acknowledged it.